Well, good evening, Demon fans, and welcome to the Demonland podcast. My name is Andy, and I think I can feel that veil of negativity hovering over my head like a dark cloud, but hopefully by discussing what transpired on Saturday with my co-host, Jack Viney, it will somewhat help alleviate this pain and sorrow that following this football club sometimes brings. Jack Viney, are you able to transfer some of your usual positivity to assist me in getting out of this funk known as the first round blues?
I'm pretty relaxed about things, Andy, I've got to say. Sure, we've blown finals chances now, but I think the year is about restoring dignity and a bit of pride in the jumper and playing the kids, obviously. So plenty to look forward to in the remaining 21 rounds.
Well, great. Hopefully you can bring me back up to a normal state. If you would like to join this program tonight to discuss any of the topics that we talk about, you can give us a call on 0390163666, or you can Skype us at Demonland31. If you're listening to the show live, you can join us in our chat room where you can ask questions or post comments by heading over to demonland.com/podcast. If you're listening to this at your leisure via SoundCloud on demonland.com or via iTunes or an Android podcasting app, be sure to subscribe to the show to receive updates when a new show drops. Don't forget to leave us a favourable review to help more people find us. You can also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/demonland31, on Twitter at Demonland, on Instagram at Demonland31, or on YouTube, just search for Demonland Podcast and listen to some of the great interviews that we've conducted with current and past players and coaches. Or if you just love talking about the D's 24/7 all year round, why not join up to demonland.com and chat with other D's fans about this great club? And with all that out of the way, well, I don't know.
Are we a great club?
Yeah, well, yes. Well, 1 week on, 1 week off. A once great club, maybe. I don't know. I'm not quite at panic stations yet, but this seemed like a bankable win. When I was looking at the fixture at the beginning of the year, I looked at this game, and even knowing our history with these false dawns that we've had in the past few years, and where round one has let us down, I banked this one as a win, and we didn't get it.
Round one always tosses up a few surprises, so you've got to factor that in. I think we've seen that the top few teams all struggled. West Coast game was very similar to ours. They started like a house on fire and then were pretty much done sort of by half time, midway through the second. Richmond won, but not too convincingly, and Collingwood weren't much chopped, particularly in the first half. So, not a lot to panic about at this stage. And I think when you take into account the number of postseason surgeries that we had and the delayed start, plus a very hot day, and that explains why we looked cooked early in the second quarter.
And we'll talk about those surgeries and stuff in a sec, because I've got sort of a list of it. But just going back to the other games you mentioned, Richmond didn't look flash, but they still banked the win. I would have been happy in the end if we didn't look flash and we banked a win. West Coast, considering that the Eagles, they were away, they've got so many home games that they'll, I wouldn't be worried if I were them. But then I look at our draw, the Collingwood Geelong game, yeah, whatever. But look at our draw, particularly in the first few games, and we could be staring down the barrel of 0-2.
Look, we might have inflated expectations, which I think are reasonable in the circumstances. The last four games of last year, we looked last four penultimate games of last year, next to last, we looked sensational, and we heard a lot over the summer about the brand. We all saw that brand on display, and I think we came in perhaps expecting that we would see it now going forward. You can't play that kind of footy 100% of the time, but we probably expected to see it 80, 90% of the time, and perhaps it's going to take a little while before we can really play that brand properly again, if players are still getting fitness and touch.
You know, all signs were pointing to us being underdone for round one. We went deep into 2018. We started training almost a month later than other teams, certainly a month later than Port Adelaide, our opponent this week. We had a huge off-season surgery list, and some of those injuries, and some injuries over the pre-season as well. Like we had Oliver double shoulder surgery, Jack Viney ankle surgery, Neville Jetta shoulder. Did he have a knee surgery as well? I'm not sure. I thought someone mentioned that on Demonland. James Harms had shoulder surgery, Vandenberg shoulder surgery, Hunt shoulder surgery, Petraka knee, Mitch Hannon dual knee surgery, Oscar McDonald had hip surgery, Marty Hall ankle surgery, Melksham ankle surgery, Jake Lever, well, he's not in at the moment, but he also, he had his knee surgery last year, but I think he had a procedure this year. Tom McDonald, I think a few weeks ago, had a minor procedure, and Max was, as we found out this week, was hospitalised for a skin condition and needed antibiotics, whatever, had a procedure as well. Yeah, it's
a big list, and it's a list full of many of the key players in the engine room. So you're not looking for excuses. But I think if you listen to Goody's presser post game, the subtext of it was we've put out the best that we can do given all those circumstances that we've just reeled off. And as we were last year, we'll be primed at the right end of the season.
But not if we're 0-4 in a couple of weeks' time. This is Panic Andy coming out.
Look, let's see what happens this week and how different it is. I just watched Jordan Lewis on AFL 360, and he said, look, for all the other reasons that there were, one is that the effort just wasn't there. As in not working hard enough. So, if we see the effort and the intensity come back this week, then I think other things will be forgiven.
That intensity, I mean, I think one of the most disappointing things as well was we didn't just have we had that scoreless, not just to have that scoreless last quarter, but we didn't kick another goal with 15 minutes remaining in the third term. Yep. That's a long time not kicking a goal and barely hitting the scoreboard. Jack Viney, he should not have played. I noticed, I didn't say it to the guys I was sitting with, but I noticed him limping in the warm-up. Sort of when he came on the ground, he was sort of limping, not a pronounced limp. He looked really, really underdone, and considering the minutes on the ground, they knew that as well. Why play him?
Yeah, look, it's hard to know, isn't it? He's got strapping on his knee. We know there's been the toe or the foot issue in the past. There was talk of getting a corky, and then there's also the knock that he apparently got at training sort of the week before. So who knows what it is, whether it's a combination of all those things, and it'll be interesting to see whether his name is in the 22 picked for this week, given that, he had an absolute shocker. I think somebody on one of the TV shows said it was probably his worst AFL game, and he did. He appeared to be running in quicksand, as many have mentioned.
And it wasn't just him, it was the other co-captain. I think Jones played one of the worst games I've ever seen him play, and we know how good he's been over the years. He's carried us for years. I'm not ready to, put a cross through him yet, but that was one of the worst games I've seen him play, and that drop mark was, and he said he's embarrassed about it as well, but
I think it's a bit harsh on Jones. I actually thought up until the three-quarter time he was okay. He started actually quite well, and I caught a little bit of the replay the other night, and he did a few good things, but he had a horror last quarter. Yeah. Some have suggested that he was sort of pumped full of injections to help him to play, and that's why I dropped the mark. But if you look at the replay, he's clearly taken his eye off the ball at the last minute to have a look what's happening closer towards goal, which is, the timing was terrible. And it looked terrible, but it happens, 20 times a season. So, it's hard to get too grumpy about that, as pivotal as it was, really.
You mentioned that,
given the circumstances.
You mentioned that he looked. He took his eyes off sort of the footy to look downfield. I notice we do that a lot. Not take our eyes off the footy, but as soon as they get it, they're very quick to look to try and palm it off to someone else. And obviously that's the team rule. Sometimes I think, are they trying to palm it off to give it to someone else because they don't want to have the set shot? But I've noticed that a lot. Melksham kicking to Petrarca. It happens quite a bit,
yeah.
I think.
I saw a stat
Melksham.
also that our game had the most play-ons from marks, I think, in the history, or for a huge number of years anyway. So, that's interesting and obviously backed up by the stats. But it's funny because at other times we looked really slow to move the ball, didn't we? And there wasn't a lot of, for all of that movement around that you're talking about, there wasn't a lot of bringing it back into the centre and sort of switching play for that fast movement.
Yeah, we sort of hugged the boundary quite a bit, and we kept doing it. But look, we looked slow. We were beaten in close by some rookies. I think I've lost Great Viney there for a moment. I might just quickly try and get him back. Let's have a look. I'll turn down these Skype sounds for a moment. While we're just waiting for Great Viney, let's see if we can get him back.
I am back. I'm not sure what happened there. Apologies.
Yeah, that's all right. I just said we look slow. We were beaten in close by some rookies. We were killed on the spread for the second week in a row, if you count the JLT as a bigger match. We didn't have a plan B for Gawn, given that he went in, he had a procedure. Should we have played Bruce? Are you in that camp that we should have considered? Well, we went up against two ruckmen, and it was my understanding. Did we get Bruce in as a backup for Gawn if Gawn goes down, or did we get it to combat, the dual ruckman situations? And this week seemed like one of those dual ruckman situations where the opposition has two pretty strong big men.
Look, probably the answer to that's probably a bit of both, but by all reports, Bruce didn't set the world on fire in the Casey game.
Yep.
So it may well be that he's got a bit to learn about, either the craft or the systems before he does come in for those games. Look, in hindsight, it looks like he should have played because Max was struggling for a number of reasons, but I'm not in that camp. No, not necessarily.
So, do we...
but look, you're right that we got absolutely beaten on outside run and spread, and too many players all game got sucked into the contest. You had 3 or 4 players all going for the one guy with the ball, and that left Port, several Port players on the outside just ready to take it and go as soon as they got possession. So it was sort of, we saw old bad habits creeping back in. We'd largely gotten rid of that habit last year, but it was absolutely there in abundance on the weekend.
And we also seem to make Jack Watts look really tough. So that's
Well, as I pointed out to you on the day, Jack took some of the gloss off that hit on Oliver by stopping and taking his eyes off the footy and looking back to see whether Oliver was okay. So certainly the nice guy, Jack. He can't suppress it no matter what happens. But look, good on him. He played a good game, but he played a number of games like that for Melbourne.
Yeah.
I saw his interview afterwards, and that was nice and good luck to him. But he's also had a number of those moments throughout the years. It's the waking up and the waking up of Jack Watts, and this could be the turning point. And I've heard it all before.
He got 2 coaches' votes. Do you think that was Goody, or do you think his coach gave him, or it was split one apiece? Well, I think someone else got a 1. I think two people got a 1.
Salem got a 1, so it couldn't have been one apiece. Someone's given him 2.
Someone's given him 2.
I think it was probably Hinkley giving his player a boost.
Okay, very nice. Our disposal efficiency wasn't great. I got a couple of stats here. Hibbard 67%, Melksham 62%, Viney 60%, Nibbler 60%, Brayshaw 57%, and Hunt 50%.
Yeah, DZF has just asked in the chat room our thoughts on Hunt.
Well, look, like most, he didn't have a great game. I noticed there was one time when he did run through the centre. He did lower his, the big complaint about him was that he doesn't lower his eyes and just bombs it in. I think he's improved that. But look, no one, with the exception of, I think, Salem, had an outstanding game.
No. Brayshaw and Melksham were okay.
Yeah. Brayshaw, just my issue with him is that he can get the ball. He finds it a lot. Mainly it's just his disposal at times. He just sort of bombs it up in the air, but he gets a lot of it, and he's a very good footballer. But, I don't know what to say about Hunt.
It was good to see that run, because that was a bit of a throwback to 217 and the Jaden that we like. Probably just got a pass.
Yeah. I don't think he'll get a flick. Do you think? We noticed, we mentioned about we were slow and on the beaten on the spread. Do you think, and Gawn sort of getting bullied and no one sort of sticking up for him and do you think the blueprint to beat us, which the Eagles showed everyone in 2018, is there
to
for
play
all...
us in hot weather?
Yeah, well, that too. It was bloody hot. But then again, they had to play in the hot weather as well, and it didn't seem to bother them. But yeah, we played the Eagles in hot weather. But do you think other teams are we're found out, or we'll see? Time will tell.
Look, our game plan is very work intensive. It requires those second and third and fourth efforts and hard running both ways. And I think that perhaps we our work rate, if it drops off or isn't at the optimum level, perhaps we can be beaten. But I think probably that the drafting of Kolajasny is aimed at addressing that. Look, it's less about actual speed than it is about ball movement. When we move the ball well, we move it as quick as anybody. And it doesn't rely on sort of sheer pace. It's how you move the ball.
Yeah, I think there was.
So I think that's more important.
There was a thread about the speed on Demonland this week, and I agreed with some of the posters who say that it's not just about the speed; it's how you move the ball. It's your accuracy by foot and by hand, and finding sort of loose players. And I agree with that. You don't never sort of say, we would have won that game had we had more pace. It's more about sort of your being able to find targets. And
look, in terms of disposal efficiency, I watched most of the round one games, and the skills were deplorable across the board. There were spilled marks, kicks out on the full, kicks fell short and went over, and everyone's rusty in round one, so I wouldn't read too much into that at this stage.
What did you think of our two big forwards? They didn't have much of an impact. I thought kicking into the forward line again wasn't great, and sometimes it was just kicked into a pack and both guys would fly for it, or there were a few times where it went over the heads, or T-Mac just was able to get one arm up to the ball.
I think, and again, having watched most of the games, all teams were fairly predictable going forward. And I think it's going to take a little bit of time for Goody to get innovative with the 6-6-6, and the dust will settle and he'll watch other teams and he'll work out some way to use it to our benefit. But most sides seem to be very predictable going forward, and it was just a kick to the contest, sort of at the top of the square. We did that too, and I wonder whether there's not a better way to set up, whether it's to give Wiedemann room to lead in, or whether it's Tracker one out in the square. You're right, neither Weed nor T-Mac had great games. It was great. Weed's one contested mark that he took, or that really that huge pack mark. I mean, that was a really top contested grab.
We know he can do it. We've seen that.
Yep.
I want to see more of it. The media was playing up about how we would just dominate. We would benefit the most from the 6-6-6, but I just don't see this at the moment.
Yeah, again, I'd give it a few weeks while coaches work something out. And we know Goody's pretty innovative in that way. I just wonder about the loss of Jesse, and all things being equal, if he had been out there, assuming he wasn't going through the issues that he was going through and he was still at the club. There's a lot of criticism and commentary on Demonland that he was no good against really good teams. Well, that still leaves about 12 or 14 games in the year where he was influential and very good, and I wonder how much we're going to miss his contribution. I've got plenty of faith in Weed, and we know how good Tommy is, but Jesse's a good player.
Well, what did he kick, 40 or 50 goals last year?
Just under 50. I think he finished on 48 or 49 perhaps.
If someone doesn't step up and kick those goals, then we're down 50 goals. Or if someone kicks 25, we're down half of that. So, Weed's got to step up to the plate. T-Mac last year kicked a lot of goals. So, yeah, someone's got to step up, or another small forward. Do you think we're lacking in the small forward department? Yep. Certainly,
definitely.
We had Garlett, he's injured. Last year we had Kent when he wasn't injured. Hannon, I think, is a bit of a loss. People on Demonland, there's a lot of debate. Is he best 22? I think he is.
Yep.
Sort of always bobs up for a couple of goals. Yeah, I think
he finished the year strongly. Yeah, I thought.
Yeah,
and all things being equal, he would have been in the team this year.
Yeah,
I would have thought.
Positives. I thought Salem was excellent.
Well, what did you think of Sparrow and Wagner?
Well, that's what I was just about. They were the two. They were two of my positives. I liked Wagner and I liked Sparrow as well, but obviously they're not two guys that are going to make the difference and elevate us, but I was happy with their games.
Neither's a small forward.
No. Even though Sparrow kicked a goal, a nice small forwards goal. They were part of my positives. As I've said, I don't think they're going to be match winners yet, but certainly better. The two backmen, Omac and Frost, thought looked a bit out of their depth at times. And look, May's going to come back this week, but I don't think just having May there is going to straighten us up as we thought, as we thought that he would.
No. Frost was sort of commended at the end of last year for the job that he did on Hawkins. Does he stay in the team for that?
Well, it just depends. If May's going to go to Hawkins, and I don't know, do we play May on Hawkins? Yeah.
May's quick enough to go with Hawkins, isn't he?
Yeah, but I guess you need a backup if it doesn't work. And we know what happened last time we played Geelong at Geelong. So yeah, it's an interesting one.
Petty, I think Declan said that he rolled his ankle, so I don't know whether he'll be fit for this game, but there's a number of people suggesting Petty should come in. and that both Omac and Frost should be dropped this week. I don't think that's going to happen, but
I don't think they're going to drop both of them. May will definitely come in, but I don't know. Well, before we start talking changes, I'll just go through the Casey game. Good mate Declan gave us a bit of a rundown. He said Stretch was good attack on the ball and did well on the inside. Does Stretch get a look in, considering that he's fit and someone like Viney might not be fit? Do you think you put in a guy who's got a bit of run in his legs? And don't think of it in terms of Viney being Viney at full strength, and that if Viney is carrying something and isn't 100% fit, do you bring someone else in?
Yeah, the problem with Billy, and we know where he is in the pecking order.
Yeah,
he's a very vanilla footballer at this stage. So, what does he bring? He's not a fast runner. He's fit and he goes, but his size makes tackling difficult on bigger players. So, yeah, I'm just not sure.
Kolodajnic in his first game for the year took a little while to get into the game, but reads the ball well off half back and has great skills. Could see him coming into the seniors pretty soon. Do you think he's ready to come in? That's obviously we know in skills, but
one game.
So
yeah, he's got a. If we're whinging about players running in quicksand, I would have thought they've got to wait till he's ready.
All right.
As much as I'd love to see him.
Then he's got Maynard. Didn't notice him a lot, but he was inside all day, and it's hard to tell with a lot of players around the ball. That doesn't sound like a glowing report on Maynard. Bradkey's a bit young. Bedford, again, didn't really notice him, but did a couple of nice things out of the back pocket. That's interesting that he was played in the back pocket. I thought he was a forward, but maybe they're playing him back to build up his defensive game.
Yep.
Bruce,
I thought that too. Yep.
Yeah, Bruce was a monster in the ruck around stoppages, but did nothing of note around the ground. Talking to him after the game, he was running around sore. All right, so that's probably also
which also might have played into selection.
Yeah. Do you think they might bring him in this week? Because opposition teams are going to be getting into Maxi. Do we need another big body in there?
Well, Geelong tend to only play the one ruck, so
it doesn't look like that.
I wouldn't have thought so, and not if he's running around sore. And people are sort of saying, "Oh, bring Bruce in and he can throw his weight around a bit." Well, you don't bring in a ruckman to lay tackles.
Yeah.
So, no, I wouldn't have thought so. Not this week.
Josh Wagner, solid game, but made mistakes with the ball. His attack and aggression was great, though. I don't think he'll be getting a call up. Petty, great game as the main key defensive peg with some good overhead grabs and spoils until he rolled his ankle in the last quarter. So, I don't know what rolled ankle can be back next week, but it can also not. Can be a small injury, can be a large injury. We don't know. Baker, I think he's going to be a good winger, runs hard and fast and hits the ball well, some sloppy disposals though. I'd like to see him get a game at some point. Not sure if he's ready yet. And Kilty, best forward on the ground by a mile, jumped well at the ball, took a few strong marks, and if not, always brought it to ground. I think he's sort of pushing for selection, I think. So we'll see. It just depends on how tall they want to go in our forward line. But it seems like he's been knocking on the door. And also is because of his work in the ruck that we saw in the JLT could get him a game to relieve Max. Because that's another thing when when Sam goes into the ruck, we're down a forward basically. So something to think about too. So yeah, changes. May definitely comes in. Who comes out? There's Omac or Frost. One of them probably will come out. I can't see us playing all three in the same team along with Hall, unless Hall's the one to go out.
Could be.
Yeah. But other than that,
Hall for May.
yeah.
Yep.
Other than that, I don't know what they're going to do. It depends on Viney, how he pulls up. Yeah.
I think there's training tomorrow, so
Yeah, we'll know
I
a lot
guess we'll
more.
get a better idea of it then.
Yep. All right. Well, that was the twos wrap up. Injury list as well. Jordan Lewis, it's hammy, so you would think he's out for at least 3 to 4 weeks. Oh, what did he say?
And this is whether you believe him or not, on AFL 360, he said 2 weeks.
Yeah. All right. But, yep, possibly.
I'm just trying to think of his exact words. My understanding was that might be available for the Essendon game, that it was just 1 more week.
Yeah, and that's a Friday night game, so it's got one less day recovery. The history of 2-0. Did you see that stat?
Well, technically speaking, it should be 0-2.
Sorry, 0-2. That's what I was talking about. That's what I meant. Since 2010, 49 teams have made 0-2 starts to the season. Only 3 of those, a measly 6.5%, have finished in the top 8 at season end. But one of those teams was Collingwood last year, and look where they ended up. So if we go by that, that's a good sign. And one of them was Sydney. Sydney were the other two, 2017 and 2014. And that 2017, if you remember, they were 0-6.
Yep.
So, yes, we can afford to drop the first 6 games and still make the finals.
Look, I think there's every chance we'll have a slow start to the year. Judging, I saw most of the Essendon game, and at this stage, it looks like regardless of how well we're playing, we should be able to get on top of the Bombers again.
I'll cast your mind back. I can't remember what year it was. We played a completely depleted Essendon side due to the drugs saga in round 2.
That's ancient history now.
That's ancient history. Okay. Well, I still remember it like it was yesterday. Yes. So, can we? I think this start to the year, because I think after Essendon we've got Sydney at the SCG, and I don't think we've won at the SCG for a very, very long time.
I'm actually going to that game.
Oh, you are? Very nice.
Yeah. And at this stage, it's looking like a ticket into the ground is almost as much as the airfare.
Really?
I managed to get. So, yes.
What do they sell out there? Are they?
No, it's just I noticed somebody started a thread a few weeks ago about it and said that, decent tickets in the stand were $75 or something. So, anyway.
That's crazy. Is there anything else we need to chat about? I didn't have a long list on our things to talk about this week, so if there's anything else you want to bring up?
No, just for people to calm down, I guess. Don't burn your scarves just yet.
Do you think everyone has been hysterical?
There's been plenty of hysteria, mainly from the usual suspects, but you get that, don't you?
Yeah. Do you think they obviously want to target? The target is that pie in the sky target is 70,000 members. Probably more realistic is 50, then 55, 60.
Yep.
It's quite important in the first few rounds to sort of bank those wins to get the people excited and buying memberships. Do you think a bad start's definitely going to hurt that?
No, but I think what might affect us is this business with the trains and transport generally for people coming anywhere south of the city and from parts of the east as well. I know you had trouble getting into the game. My train wasn't running. It took the better part of an hour to drive from St Kilda to the MCG. And quite a few people sitting around me also had issues, and I would have thought that because there are road works going on, there are tram works going on, and then there's the trains as well. So it does limit people's capacity to get to the game, and I would have thought that's going to hurt crowds in the early rounds, which includes, well, we'll see, but includes that Friday night game against the Bombers.
Yeah, it seems absolutely ludicrous. I think it's 4 or 5 lines that are affected by this. Mine was the only option is to take a bus, which takes almost double the time, if not longer.
Yeah, and there were thousands of people out on Punt Road waiting for those buses after the game. So.
Oh, was there? That's crazy.
Yep.
What did you think of the crowd this week? I think they got just shy of 40,000. Do you think that was a good effort?
It was pretty good in the circumstances, yeah. And look, the problem was that if they'd shown the crowd number at siren time, it was probably half of that.
You think everyone left?
I think I commented to you that there was no one there, and people were still coming well into the first quarter, and that's all because of the transport issue.
Yeah. But it's hard for us to see because where we sit as well, you can't see how many people are sitting upstairs as well. We can from where we sit, we only see the southern stand, and for Melbourne games, most of the crowds are on the Olympic stand side and in the MCC as well. So sometimes it's a bit misleading just by us looking from where we sit looking out.
But we can see downstairs in the northern stand.
Yeah.
We've got quite a bit of on either side. But yeah, George on the out is making the point that supposedly premium membership sold out last October, which is true because they created new categories and seating. Yet our Tridents area, he says, there were as many spare seats as last year, and I can vouch for that too. And certainly, I know a couple of people that only come 2 or 3 times a year, Queen's birthday usually being one of them.
Yeah, it's funny, the person who sits next to me is never there. I mean, I've always got 2 seats. I think they've come once a year.
Yep, there's a few around us like that. So
anyway, that's the way it is. But it's good that the club sold it out, so it's money in their pockets. All right, if there's nothing else, we might close it up a bit early this week, and hopefully we come back next week refreshed.
Well, we won't wallow in misery, will we?
No, well, I'll try not to.
So, yeah.
Well,
there was a bit of criticism for Goody not reviewing the West Coast game.
Yeah,
which seems to have reared its head.
I had that actually in my notes, and I did forget to bring that up. I said, where did I have that in my? I've already closed it, but I had in my notes. Do you think of what? Oh, we'll turn the music off for a sec. We can discuss this now. So Goody made a quite a big deal. Well, not a big deal, but he was interviewed about it a few times, and he sort of made it clear that he didn't want to look at the review that game because he thought there was no point. Let's just move on from it. But considering
maybe that was just spin, though. No.
What you saying? They did look at it and dissect it.
I reckon, of course, he would have looked at it.
For what reason would he say that he didn't look at it and we're just going to move on?
Well, I think, for a whole bunch of reasons. And part of it's just aimed at the membership we've got to move on from this loss and let's get ready for buying memberships again in early next season. I'd be really surprised if he didn't look at it again.
Yeah, look, I hope they did because, not that there were huge parallels between the two, this round one and preliminary final, but I would hope they would have looked at sort of what happened in that game, that it wasn't just an aberration. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't believe, I think Goody's pretty authentic with the media, but stuff like that I'd just take with a grain of salt.
Yep, all right. Now you've made me upset again.
Should we find something good to finish on?
We might need to. I don't know. I'm a bit worried about the Geelong game. Even though we played really well in that final against them, I don't think we're playing anywhere near the way we were playing even when we played them in Geelong last year, and I thought we were very good for 3 quarters there until the last quarter. I don't think we're anywhere near that team that played then. I can't see us winning at all.
But it's round 2, and you don't want to be peaking in round 2. You want to be peaking at round 16 or whenever it was that we played them last year. In that game out at Cardinia.
But even in round 1 last year, we lost that and I was disappointed, but I wasn't the same. We nearly won that game, and but if not for Max's errant kick for goal, we would have won that. And all right, it's round 1. Let's move on.
Yeah.
All right.
I say, restore a bit of pride. Back in the jumper, bit of dignity, play the kids, and look forward to 220.
All right. That'll be the last Demon Land podcast for 2019.
We'll be back next week to discuss the draft.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Thank you, Greg Viney, and we'll be back same time next week. It could be tears, it could be tears of joy. Let's hope it's the latter. All right, Greg Viney, nice speaking to you, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Andy.